Hey everyone, welcome back to my Loom kitchen, and today I'll be showing you how to make this twist lollipop. This is a rainbow twist lollipop, but you could change the colors and make it any other flavor. You could make it red and white, so you have like a peppermint twist, or if you make it white and pink, you'll have one of those marshmallow twists on a stick. Other than the bands, you will be needing a stick to hold it all together. I'm using a balloon stick, which I cut up. You can make this also any length you want. You can make it shorter if you only want 5 layers, or much longer than this if you want to continue. Completely up to you. If you click on the link under this video, it should take you to the recipe page, and I listed down the colors I used and any other tips that I may have forgotten to say during this tutorial. So check that out, come back, and let's begin. We will be using our regular loom. If you could remove your center row and have the remaining 2 rows facing on opposite directions. My front is facing to the right, my back is facing to the left. We will only be working on 6 pegs. If you could mark one side as your front so that we know which side is the elevated area. Start with my first color. I'll be doing a marshmallow twist pop today. So I'll be working with pastels. So you take 2 bands of your first color and put it on your center of your 6 pegs. Take another 2 bands, put your hook through that twisted first pair of bands, and just pull it through over here, twist the other side here. Take another 2, you can go through those 2 bands, 2 pairs of bands that you laid out, and pull that third pair and twist it here. This is your starting point. Now you take another 2 bands of your first color. Just gonna lay them around these 6 pegs. And then you're going to lift all the lower 2 bands on the 6 pegs up and over. And back to our front, push everything down. Now you're going to get 2 bands again of your first color, and you're going to lay them only on these pegs here. We're going to leave this area empty. Now we're going to lift the lower bands only on these 4 pegs. We're not going to touch these 2 pegs on the right side. So we're going to lift lower 4 bands here, lower 4 bands here, lower 4 here, lower 4 here. Then after that, we're going to lay double bands all around. Then we lift all the lower bands up and over. So there's 4 bands here, another 4 bands here, and there will be 6 bands here on this peg since we didn't lift the bands on the row before. The other side as well, 4 bands here, 4 bands here, and then 6 bands on this outer peg. Go back to your front. Now we're gonna take, so we're done with that first color. That's our first color. And we're gonna go to our second color. Take a single band of your next color. And pull it through that first peg. Now you place one end of that single band down to replace that peg, and you place the other end over here temporarily. Take another single band, go through that second peg, pull it through, replace that peg with one end, place the other end on the previous peg, single band, go through, replace that peg, other end goes on the previous, go this back, hook through that peg, remove it, place one end to replace, one end on the previous, same on the next. On this last peg, go through a single of your next color again, replace and previous. Now go back to that first band and place it over your last peg. Push everything down. Now get 2 bands of your next color and you're going to X out those double bands on this side only. We're going to leave this open. And you're going to take double bands and lay that on top of those bands that you just X'd out. Now we're going to repeat. We're only going to lift the lower bands on these first 2 pegs on these sides. We're going to ignore the bands here first. So on this first peg, we're not going to touch any of these bands that we weaved into that first layer. You don't touch that. So we're going to pick up the 4 center bands here, bring it up, and on this middle peg as well, 4 center bands, bring it up and over, and here, 4 center bands, over here, 4 center bands, here, bring it down. Go back to your front. Now you get 2 bands and exit out in that area we skipped. Take another 2 bands, lay it over, and all around the 6 pegs this time. Now we're going to lift all the lower bands. So on this first peg, you're going to pick up that center 4 first. Then you pick up that lower 2 bands, those single bands we connected to our first color, to the previous color. Then you pick up the center on this peg, you pick up the lower 2. Then over here, pick up the center 6 bands. and pick up the lower two. Other side, just pick up the center 4 here, and pick up those lower two, and center 4, and then the lower two. Then over here, center 6 bands, and then the lower two. The only thing that's different here, all the center layers are all the same. It's the same technique. The only thing that will be different is the top layer and the last layer. So let's repeat that. Let's do one more layer under this first layer. So we have our first color, our second color. I'm going to show you how to do the center again. Single band. Put through that first peg, replace that peg with one end, place the other end here temporarily. Another single band, pull through, replace the peg, place the other end on the previous peg, single band, this last one, single band. Now the other end of that very first band we placed, place it over the last peg. So again, we're going to push it down, and it'd be best if you push your creation up, because initially I did it and I tried to turn it inside out, and it was really hard to turn inside out at the end. So best that you keep it up so you won't have such a hard time at the end. Now you're going to get 2 bands of your color, and you're going to X them out on one side, the side where you have your marker. So I'm going to X it out here, X it out here, X it out here. Then I'm going to X it out here, and here. Then I'm going to lay double bands on top of the areas I X'd out. Now we're going to lift the, first we're going to ignore those single bands we used to connect to the previous layer. So those lower 2 bands we don't touch. So we're going to lift those center 4 bands here in that first peg, and the center 4 on this second peg. And we don't touch anything on this layer. So that the other side. So ignore those lower 2 bands. Pick up those center 4 bands, center 4 bands, and we don't touch this peg. Now we're going to take 2 bands and we're going to X out this area we skipped. Then we're going to lay double bands all around the 6 pegs. Now we're going to lift the center four bands on this first peg, bring it up and over. Then now you pick up the lower two bands and bring that up and over as well. And the center pegs, pick up those center four bands, bring that up and over. Then you pick up the lower two bands, bring it up and over. On this outer third peg, you're going to pick up the center six bands, bring that up and over. Then you pick up those lower two bands, do the same on the other side. Center four, up, pick up those lower two bands and bring it up and over. Center four bands, bring it up and over. Then the lower two, and on this outer peg we pick up the center six bands, then you pick up the lower two and push everything down and push it up. Get ready for your next color or your next layer. Go back to your front so you're sure you're elevating on the right side or on the correct side, and then you start weaving in your next color with your single bands. So it's the same process. First you're going to weave in when you start a new layer in the middle portion, you're going to weave in single bands of the next color, and then you do those two layers, one with the elevated side. You can rewind the video to go back and check how to do it again, but you can continue adding as many colors you want, and so your twirl stick can be as long as you want it to be. So pause your video and continue making those layers in whatever choice of color. Unpause when you're done, and I'll show you how to finish off the last layer. So I'm on my 7th layer, and I'm going to close it here. You can go longer if you want it more than 7. So I'm going to take my balloon stick, and to measure, I'm just going to put it in and check how long I want the handle to be. So roughly wherever your loom ends, that's where your creation is going to stop. So let's just say I want it a little longer under, so just cut it. Now I'm going to add a layer of double bands. Move my stick first. We're just going to add one last layer of double bands all around these 6 pegs. Lift all the lower 4 bands up and over. Now we're going to smoothen out this peg. Pick up the top 2 bands and see where the other end is coming from. The other end of these bands are coming from here, so let's bring it opposite here, this side. Pick up the lower 2, bring it to the back. Let's do the same here. Upper 2 bands, and the other end of this band is coming from here, so I'm going to bring this back here. take this forward. So there are 6 rounds of bands on the 4 pegs. Now you're going to pick up the lowest 2 bands on the 4 pegs and bring it up and over. So on these 4 pegs, let's put one last row of single bands. And lift all the lower bands up and over, and you're left with 2 bands on each peg. So now we're going to close it. I'm going to insert my stick. And we're going to close starting from this peg. But first, I'm going to go across, put my hook through that peg across, and pick up the lower band of the 2 and bring it to that starting point. I'm going to put my hook through, push back those upper 2 bands, pick up that lowest band, move it forward, hook through, lowest band, move it to the next peg, hook through, lowest band, move it forward, hook through, take that single band and bring it to your starting peg. I'm going to put it through that starting peg, take a single same color band and tie that off. And slip knot. Just help it off the loop. You place your hook through any portion and hide your tail. And that's it. So make it any length you want. Make it longer, shorter, completely up to you. So I hope you like it. Enjoy your twist pops.